Audience focus. People who have started new jobs, especially warehouse, security, factory, or any late-night shift work. Goal of this section, introduce a relatable main character starting a warehouse night shift, show the mix of boredom and mild anxiety that comes with working alone at night, and give the listener a calm but slightly uneasy entry point into the story. The aim is to make the setting feel real and familiar so that later events feel personal. Summary: a college-age narrator takes a new night shift job at a warehouse on the edge of a small town, needing money and appreciating the quiet hours. The section describes the layout of the warehouse, the loading dock, the rows of shelves, the security cameras, and the small break room with old furniture. We meet one or two co-workers from the day shift who tell casual stories about how quiet it is at night, and one older supervisor who jokes about weirdos on the highway, but doesn't seem too concerned. The narrator feels a bit nervous, but mostly reassured that it's just a routine job. As the first night begins, the emptiness of the building and the sound of distant trucks create a slightly tense atmosphere. The section ends with the narrator alone, checking the cameras and trying to get used to the stillness. Flow and connection. This section starts from everyday normal life and gently leads into the late-night environment. It prepares the listener for subtle changes by making the place feel solid and familiar, so small disturbances later will stand out more. Audience focus. Night shift workers, security guards, anyone who has been alone in large buildings or industrial spaces after hours. Goal of this section, introduce the first mild disturbances that feel easy to explain away, but still leave a mark in the listener's mind. The goal is to create a sense of something is off without revealing any clear threat yet. During one of the early nights, the narrator hears metal clanging from the loading dock area and assumes it's just the building settling or unfinished work from the evening shift. They go to check and find a rolling cart out of place, a door not fully latched, and a stack of boxes slightly moved from where they remember. They fix things and shrug it off, thinking it's just memory or air drafts. The next night, there are more small oddities. A pallet jack left in a walkway, a light on in a section that should be dark, a door to the outside dock that seems to have been opened and shut. Each time, the narrator finds a rational explanation and tells themselves they're just jumpy in a big empty building. By the end of the section, they notice the security monitor flicker for a moment when looking at the loading dock camera. Flow and connection. This section builds on the calm setup by adding small but repeated disturbances. It connects from the just a job feeling into a slow awareness that not everything is fully under control at night, setting up the need to watch the cameras more closely in the next part. Audience focus. People who work with surveillance systems, late-night staff in retail or industrial spaces, and listeners fascinated by subtle human threats. Goal of this section, shift from harmless-seeming oddities to a clear sign that someone else might be present without giving full clarity. The goal is to deepen the listener's unease and make them pay attention to small details. The narrator starts making a habit of watching the security cameras during quiet stretches. One night, they see a shape on the loading dock camera that looks like a person standing near the back gate, but when they blink and stare harder, it's gone. They assume it was a shadow or a glitch, but rewind the footage and briefly see a blurry outline leaning against the fence before the recording cuts or distorts. Later, they notice the dock door indicator showing open for a second, even though the door appears closed on the screen. A few hours into the shift, a loud metallic bang echoes, and when they check the dock, some boxes are knocked over near the door, but no one is there. They begin to suspect that either someone is sneaking around or something is wrong with the system itself. The section ends with the narrator deciding they'll start checking the dock more often in person, even if it feels risky. Flow and connection. This section takes the vague discomfort from the previous part and hardens it into a more direct suspicion. It smoothly leads into the need for a closer look at the physical space, moving the story from distant watching to direct confrontation. Audience focus. Anyone who fears being trapped warehouse and industrial workers, people who have anxiety about malfunctioning systems and locked doors. Goal of this section: deliver a more intense and claustrophobic experience by trapping the narrator, showing how quickly a routine check can turn into danger. The listener should feel the combination of physical fear and not knowing who might be outside. One night after another camera glitch, the narrator goes out to the loading dock to satisfy their curiosity. The overhead lights hum, the air is cold, and the big garage-style doors seem solid and quiet. They step outside the small man door to check the gate and notice the padlock is unlatched and hanging open. Before they can react, the door behind them slams shut. They try to re-enter the warehouse, but the handle won't turn. Somehow it locked from the inside and their badge isn't responding. Now trapped in the dock area with only the open yard and fence behind them, they hear soft scraping sounds near the pallets and the faint rattle of the chain on the gate. The narrator's phone barely has signal, and calling the supervisor goes straight to voicemail. As they move around the dock, they find a cigarette butt still warm near the gate and a small piece of fabric caught on the metal. The feeling grows that someone was here very recently and may still be watching from the dark. Flow and connection. This section logically follows from the decision to check the dock, turning curiosity into entrapment. It pushes the tension sharply higher and positions the listener to worry about how the narrator will get back inside and whether someone else is nearby. Audience focus: people suspicious of security systems, corporate cover-ups, and anyone who enjoys stories where technology fails at the worst possible time. Goal of this section: deliver the main release of physical danger balanced with a deeper mental unease by letting the narrator escape but leaving unanswered questions about the intruder in the recording. After pounding on doors and trying every handle, the narrator finally forces open a side door by ramming it with a metal cart, scratching themselves in the process. They rush back to the security office to see if the cameras captured whoever was near the gate. To their shock, the footage from the last hour on the dock camera is completely blank, or it cuts to a static screen with a timestamp that skips. Other cameras show small oddities, like a shadow near a side entrance that never fully appears. In the morning, the supervisor listens to the story, but seems more annoyed about the damaged door than concerned about a possible intruder. He suggests it was probably just a system glitch and tells the narrator to write an incident report. Before leaving, the narrator notices one of the monitors briefly show the dock again, with a figure standing close to the door before flickering away. Flow and connection. This section takes the physical problem, being locked outside, and resolves it while opening a larger, more disturbing mystery. It leads naturally into the emotional impact on the narrator's life and their shifting habits in the final section. Audience focus: burnt-out workers, people who left dangerous jobs, listeners who enjoy reflective endings with lingering dread. Goal of this section: provide a grounded emotional aftermath where the narrator changes their behavior and life choices while leaving the core mystery unsolved and memorable. The aim is to leave the listener thoughtful and a little unsettled, not fully reassured. Summary: the narrator continues working a few more weeks, but every small noise and camera flicker puts them on edge. They begin triple-checking doors, keeping their car keys in their pocket, and planning escape routes in their head. They notice footprints in dust near the loading dock on nights when no deliveries are scheduled. Eventually, a final straw, such as hearing footsteps on the mezzanine while all lights are off, pushes them to resign. Later, they hear from a former co-worker that the warehouse installed new cameras and a taller fence after a break-in, but no one ever told them specifically what happened or if someone was caught. The narrator ends by describing how they still feel uneasy around large, empty buildings at night and how they always park facing the exit now. Flow and connection. This closing section wraps up the first story's personal arc, showing lasting changes in behavior. It also sets a tone for the entire video. Late-night shifts seem calm on the surface, but small ignored signs can hide real danger. guiding the listener smoothly into the next chapter about a different job.